Welcome to this week's edition of the Sports Scoop Coaches Show. Joining me is the long-lost friend Joel Hayford. We dug him out of the gymnasium at Mankato after 11 hours of wrestling. We still talked him into filling in for Jolton Teddy Hammond, who's up north in the state bowling tournament. So good luck to Teddy and his team.
Always nice to fill in for Ted.
Big shoes to fill.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, if we start out with boys basketball on our agenda, and too bad Teddy's not here today because Teddy's had a long season, not a lot of highlights, but opened up tournament play as the number 8 seed and hosted number 9 Nicollet. At halftime, it's Nicollet 46, Janesville 23.
Wow. At that point, you're wondering whether to throw the towel in or not.
I'm wondering if Teddy even thought, is it worth it to go down to the locker room and try to talk? End of the game, Nicollet 69, JWP 84, outscored them 61-23 in the second half.
That's a tremendous comeback.
Would have been interesting to see what went on there. I know one of the Sack brothers had 34. I think they had 4 in double figures. I'm sure the 84 is probably a season high in point totals, but the Bulldogs, who have struggled, they're just 5-20 this year. Move on in tournament play.
And what do you say as a Nicollet coach in that situation? That would just be heartbreaking to have that kind of lead.
Goodness.
And be the number 9 seed and come off to such a great start at half.
Yeah.
Like you said, we haven't heard any particulars how it all took place, but it sounds like it must have been quite a second half.
Well, knowing Teddy and his style, I'm sure he said, just get on him all over the court and let's see if we can make something happen. And evidently some shots started to fall and the Bulldogs move on. Next on their agenda, top-seeded St. Clair, a team they played earlier in the year, lost by 22 points, and they will meet Tuesday at St. Clair. This was actually the pigtail game of the South Subsection 2A tournament, so this will be the quarterfinal round now. And as we mentioned, St. Clair is the top seed, so Ted will have his work cut out for him.
Yeah, well, hopefully they can bring that second half type of play in and play that entire game that way, yes.
NRHEG, the Panthers 16-9 for the year. Pat Churchill's crew had the whole week off to get ready for tournament play. I think they got the number 3 seed. They'll be at home Tuesday night. They host Blue Earth from the Big South Conference, a team they defeated earlier this year by 12 points. So that'll be a first-round game in Section 2AA.
Yeah, and as you know in playoffs, it doesn't matter. You come and have to play them again. It's always tough to beat a team a couple times.
One night, one shot.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what went on during the year. WEM, how about Jeff Wagner's crew? 14 consecutive wins. The Bucks are 23-3 for the year, and yet they could only get the number 2 seed in their subsection.
Wow. Maple
River grabbed the top seed and don't quite know how, but they split during the year. So I guess 1 and 2, it really doesn't matter. The Bucks finished out their regular season. They defeated St. Peter, a pretty good team from the old South Central, Big South Conference, by 26 points. And then they closed the regular season with an overtime win against Mankato Loyola. So Wags has them going. The number 2 seed, they'll be at home Tuesday night and host Lake Crystal Welcome Memorial.
And year after year, Wags just seems to put together a really nice team, and hopefully they can have a great run in the playoffs here.
They sure do. If NRHEG beats Blue Earth and WEM beats Lake Crystal, those 2 teams will meet in the semifinals at Mankato East the following Saturday. So that's always a fun rivalry, and especially when they meet at tournament time. The Blue Jays, Waseca, 17-9. A little disappointing ending to the year. Everybody figured when Waseca beat Mankato East on Monday night, that would give them the number 2 seed. But the Jays turned around and lost to Stewartville, lost to Jackson County Central, and sure enough, they got the number 3 seed. Although the way it's set up this year, 2 and 3 really doesn't matter because round 2 is at a neutral site anyway. It would matter if the 2 had the home game, but chances are Waseca and East were going to meet in the semifinals anyway, so it doesn't matter who's 2 and who's 3.
Yeah, they've had a great season this year. You take a look at those 9 losses. The losses kind of have come in bunches. the holiday tournaments there, that kind of got them there. I think they had 4 of their losses in that mix there, or close to it in that area. And then you had at the end here a few of them that, after playing a great game against Mankato East, I believe it was, and you've got to see them play it quite a bit this year, and things. It's been a good season for them. And of course, Nick has really gotten hot late in the season here. He's had some really big games and played very well, and I think he's just totally shattered that scoring record, hasn't he?
Yeah. The only way I think that's ever going to be broken is some kids start as an 8th grader.
I don't think us guys will ever see it happen if it does. I think Woody's record was at 1467, somewhere in there. And of course, you and I were able to watch him play, and both of them are very good shooters. I think Nick, he's the type of player that, and I think he has scored so many, not only because of his great outside shooting, is that he's one that really takes the ball to the hoop an awful lot. Eric Wood was a great outside shooter and got a lot of his points from the outside, whereas Dufault gets them from the outside. He gets them going to the basket, but also Dufault gets a lot of points off of defense. He's a great defender and gets a lot of defensive points, I should say, where you're scoring off a transition, where you steal the ball.
And Woody got none of them that way.
Well, like I said, Eric was a great basketball player and a heck of a shooter. But, that's where most of his points came, is, on the offensive sets and getting him to coming off screens. And, every once in a while he'd get a chance to get to the hole or get a rebound and put something back in. Whereas Dufault's scoring happens in a large variety of ways.
That's where I think Nick's biggest improvement has come, because as a freshman and a sophomore, he pretty much sat out in the corner and hit the open shot if it was there. He explodes to that hoop now. He is an excellent driver going to the hoop.
And you get to the free throw line so often when you do that also. Yep. So that's a huge thing for him too. But he's just been on fire lately, the way it sounds.
So the Jays 17-9 regular season. East is 16-10. Waseca won the head-to-head, but East still gets the 2nd seed ahead of Waseca. The Jays will open up tournament play Tuesday night at home. They host Hutchinson, a team that they really had trouble with way back the 2nd game of the year up at Hutch. Waseca ended up winning by 8, but I know Hutchinson really shot the ball well that night. I don't think they have since.
Yep, and a good old Waseca residents, the Vilts will be back in town.
Yep.
I believe their son plays for that team. Yes. So, and of course, Greg Vilt, a great player here for Waseca. I think he might be in that top 10 in scoring, I believe, in Waseca history. So that should be a fun night.
Semifinals of Section 2 AAA will be Saturday, and I think this section is at Gustavus for the 2nd round. So Saturday night, if Waseca wins and East wins, they would meet at Gustavus in the semifinal rounds.
So that's a little change of venue there.
Yeah.
Aren't we usually at Mankato?
And I think maybe the championship is back at Mankato, but for some reason, I don't know if there's scheduling conflicts or what, but I think the semifinals are at Gustavus.
Yeah, well, what a great place. You can seat so many people, and you aren't going to pack it in a gym where it's hard to get a seat.
Yep. Girls basketball, we look at next. JWP, they are 8-18 for the year. Their only game of the week, they lost to Waseca by 23 points. I don't know if they've seeded yet, but they are done with regular season, and I'm assuming they start tournament play either at the end of this week or early the following week, because they'll probably have a play-in game as well. NRHEG 19-6 for the Panthers this year, 1 win short of that 20-win mark. Their only game of the week, they crushed Faribault BA 79-56. They'll close out their regular season trying for their 20th win. They host Triton on Monday night. The WEM, and I look at the boys and girls team, together they've won 32 straight games. The boys, as we mentioned, are 23-3. The girls are 22-3. 18 straight wins for Gabe Hauer's crew. They were 4-3 at one time. They defeated St. Peter, a pretty good team, by 3 points, and then crushed Blooming Prairie Friday night. They have 1 game left. They'll play at Tri-City United on Thursday. But what a year Gabe and his crew is coming off a state championship in volleyball.
Great season. I hope they make a nice run here. I got to see them play the one time against Waseca, and I was just impressed with how patient they were in offense. They waited till they got the shot that they needed. They looked to go inside, and they move that ball around, and once their post has their person sealed, they make that nice entry pass in there, and they get some points on the inside, which opens up your outside game also. But just thought they were very disciplined and able to handle traps and different defenses that were thrown at them. So, you know, they're doing a lot of good things in their practices and preparations for games.
They run the high-low very effectively for girls' teams that you don't see a lot. And as you mentioned, they have Tierney Winter and Cameron Kendall bringing the ball up against the press, and you know, they're about 6 feet, and Waseca tried to trap them, and they just calmly held it over their head and found the open three.
Throw it over the top of the trap.
They were as good a girls' team as I've seen the night they played Waseca.
They just played a solid game mentally, not many turnovers, and you know, he's, like you said, Gabe's doing a very nice job with that team.
And Joni Conway's Waseca Lady Jays just coming off a tough week. They had a 4-game week. Wow, they lost to Mankato East by 8 points to start the week. And then they bounced JWP the following night by 23. Friday they made the long trip out to Marshall, and that was for the overall Big South Championship. Kind of a low-scoring game. The Jays ended up losing 55-46. And then yesterday they went up to Hopkins, some sort of showcase event. They played the Roseau Rams, who were a class below them but were ranked, I know, in 2A, about 6th or 7th. Ended up 80-72 Roseau in overtime. So just a 1-win week for the Jays. They're 13-12 overall with a young team. And they've run into a few roadblocks here as the season's wore on. Yeah,
you say 1 win during the week, but you still, you know, probably feel halfway decent about it because the teams that they played were very good and they played them tough. You know, it's like they were right in there with the overtime game against Roseau, and you know, hung fairly close there with Marshall, which is a very good team. They've had another nice season, and like you said, I think every player out there just about is back next year. So these are some youngsters that are gaining some great experience, and they're having a very nice season. And once again, now you got the playoffs, and you can make a good run in the playoffs.
The Jays will close the regular season Thursday night with a home game against Jordan. So 13-12 for the Lady Jays. We want to wrap up the hockey quickly, Hafe. All the Waseca teams are done. The girls have been done for a couple weeks. 6-19 a year ago. Finished 14-11-1 this year. 3rd most wins in school history, and they were a pretty young team too, so they'll have a lot back for next year. Kyle Collins' team.
Yeah, it's always good to, you know, you said 3rd most wins in the history of the program. Good.
The boys hockey team, they had their tournament game. They got thumped by St. Peter 8-1 in the opening round. That ended them with a 9-17 overall record. Not a real good year for the boys. They were 13-12-1 a year ago, so they dropped a little from that.
Yeah, does St. Peter still work together with LeSueur in hockey?
Yeah.
And I just wanted you to say LeSueur and get that in there.
St. Peter went on and upset, I believe, 3rd-seeded Rochester Lourdes in the quarterfinals, and then yesterday lost to Mankato West in the semifinals. And I think West and Northfield will be playing for that Section 1A title. Our gymnastics team, they finished out, a year ago they were 9-2. This year they finished 6-5. I think they only might have had one senior on their team. They did not qualify anyone for the state tourney, but Scott Young puts together another winning team.
Yeah, another nice season for those people. And like you said, they're young, and it's always, as a coach, exciting when you're able to work with a young group and know that you got most of those kids back for the next year.
Yesterday or over the weekend was the big section individual wrestling tournaments, and the 3 teams that we follow here, the WEM/JWP Grizzlies, they did not qualify anyone for the state tournament. They're in a tough section with Waseca. No one got through. The Blue Jays qualified 3 people, and they all finished second. No champs, but 3 seconds.
So we had 3 guys make it to the championship round. And I tell you what, I don't want to stop what you're saying.
No, you go ahead, because you were there in person.
Well, I headed over to Mankato thinking I was going to a basketball game, and I ended up watching 11 hours of wrestling. That was
all
nice.
For you, Lori.
Yeah. went Friday night, watched the first round there, and boy, I tell you what, Mankato East gym is just packed. You got 3 mats going out there. They do a great job when organized. We have 12 wrestling teams there, and they keep them rolling. They got 3 different scoreboards going. It's fun. There's action going on the entire time. But we were able to get 3 guys to the finals. Justin Sampson at 113. He had a tough match there at the end, hung in there, did lose that championship match, but he is going to be moving on to state at 113. Noah Schmidt placed 5th for us over there, and then in the championship round, Bo Milbrett wrestled probably the best wrestler in that gym that weekend, Griffin Perriott from New Prague, who's going to be going to Purdue on a full ride wrestling. That championship round that match did not last very long, but there was not a single person that wrestled Perriott that hardly made it into a minute into the match. He pinned his guy so fast, but Bo's going to be going on to the state tournament. Jack Milbrett at 182. He wrestled for 5th and 6th, but he ran out of gas right there at the end and wasn't able to capture that 5th place area there. Dylan Winiger at 220 had a fun championship match to watch. He ended up losing it, but right at the end there, he had to try to take his guy down. If he could get a takedown, he would have been the champion. And there was 2 or 3 times there at the end where he just about had the guy, but then they'd get out of bounds and have to restart. And he just ran out of gas at the end there, but he's going on to state. And then Levi Kushel at the heavyweight, he was in the semifinals, and very unfortunate in his match, early on in the match, sustained an injury and was not able to go on. So he would have wrestled for 5th or 6th, and the guy he would have wrestled, who was 30-1, got injured in a previous match also. So both those 2 guys were injured, so he wasn't able to go on and wrestle. But Zach Hall and Jake Janicki, the coaches, have done a fine job with those boys this year. It's just amazing the conditioning and the shape that those boys have to be in as a wrestler. You know, the 2 minutes, 3 periods, maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but those guys, they work so hard, and you just get gassed out there. They're working so hard. But nice little showing for those boys. And those 3 boys will go on to state.
I read a little in the Free Press this morning. Winiger wrestled Logan Swanson from West, and lost 3-2 in the championship. And they had wrestled early in the year, and Swanson had won 10-5. And the article was all about, I figured he'd be ready and would want me again, and it must have been a great match. Now, did all 3 of the Waseca guys have to come back and win true second matches to
Well,
get
it's
there?
interesting you say that, because as they're wrestling, that other match is going off on the side. And in just about every match, they finish theirs first, and they would sit and watch, because if they had not wrestled that guy before,
then they have to have a true second.
I think I can't remember which way, if either you have or you haven't wrestled. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly.
Haven't.
But you'd watch, and when that match ended, you could tell whether they made or not, because you could see some high fives or some pats on the heads or whatever. And in all these cases, they did not have to wrestle for the true second at all. But back to that Mankato West gentleman that Dylan was wrestling. He was a stud, and he's good, and Dylan hung right with him. Could tell that guy was frustrated. My brother-in-law, who was sitting next to me, said, "Watch this guy from West. He's a stud." Well, Dylan was a stud also. He did very well, and that match could have went either way at the end there. And, good luck to those boys in the state tournament now, because you have a good little run. These kids, you can be wrestling a guy that's very good, but if you make one little mistake and end up in your back, tables can turn real fast in those situations.
And that is next week now at the XL Energy Center. And you were talking about the Mankato East atmosphere. Well, if you're a wrestling person, go up to the state tournament, because there's about 16 mats going at once. I used to cover that for the paper, and you're trying to run when you get guys that wrestle close in the same, 138 and a 145 you've got there, and then you have to run to the other corner to get pictures of that guy, and that's just an amazing atmosphere.
I can't imagine. Yes.
NRHEG, we should mention too, they have 2 people qualify for state. they had the only section champ in our local covering area, Wyatt Fitterer. Fitterer. Fitterer won the 285-pound championship for the Panthers, and Cordell Peterson finished second. So those two guys will go on along with the three Waseca guys, and best of luck to all the area wrestlers next year at the state, or next week at the state tournament, because that's the culmination of a long winter season.
Yes, it is.
Okay, Hafe, we move on to the college scene.
Wow, you got all kinds of notes today. Man.
Well, you know, Andy used to do all this in color, different colors, green if you won, red if you lost. Now I got to do it all by little penmanship, and I can't read half of it. And
looks very nice.
MSU Mankato. The men had a sweep over the weekend. The basketball team defeated Sioux Falls and Southwest State. Another 20-win season for the Mavs, 20-8 right now. They go into the NSIC tournament. They host Bemidji State in the first round on Wednesday, and then I think it moves out to Sioux Falls after that.
MSU, football, baseball, basketball.
Amazing.
They've been having some great runs.
Yep, they sure have.
And if you ever want, if you want to get out and watch some really good, whatever it is, basketball, baseball, football, it's just down the road, down Highway 14 there.
Yeah, excellent. The women not having such a great year. They're 9-17 overall. They lost to Sioux Falls and then beat Southwest State. They also open that tournament play. They go up to Crookston on Wednesday night, and I think those two teams played a couple of weeks ago, and it was a one-point game, so that should be a great first-round playoff game. The hockey team, they had the whole week off. They're 15-10-7, I think, still in first place in the WCHA. And they will make the scenic trip up to Anchorage, Alaska this weekend coming up for a pair of games. The women, Johnny Harrington took over, an old Olympic guy, used to be at St. John's, came down this year to take over the Maverick women team. They're 3-27-4, and I bet they've had 15 to 20 one or two goal games. They played the Gophers one goal twice. They just cannot get in the win column, though. They lost twice to Bemidji State, I think 3-1 and 2-1 over the weekend. And they will start their playoffs on Friday. It still hasn't been determined where they'll go. The wrestling team, 10-4 for the year, had a good season. Mike Nemo Nimchek, he helps out a little over there as a volunteer. They'll be in the regionals coming up this weekend at Sioux Falls. The baseball team off to a 3-0 start, Hafe. They just keep winning there no matter what. They were down in Arkansas.
Was it Arkansas? I know it started with an A.
Yeah, Arkansas Monticello won 3 games last week, and then I think they have a week off, and then they head down to Florida.
Got it tough. I remember we got one trip when I played. We go to Texas, and now these guys are getting to go on 2 trips. They must do more fundraising than we did.
They must do. And the softball team, they're 4-4, and Coley Reese is starting to heat her up. You remember old Coley?
We do.
Great change-up.
Deadliest change-up. You were swinging, and the ball hadn't even hit the mitt yet.
They had a crossover tourney up at St. Cloud. They went 3-2 at that. They're 4-4 overall, and March 5th they head to Florida.
Must be nice.
The Golden Gusties, a lot of their seasons, they may all be done. The men finished 12-13. Basketball team, they won 2 games to end the regular season, but did not qualify for the playoffs.
Wow.
Done.
I've never seen you do this much college coverage. You must have to fill some airtime, Andy, or something.
You must not have had Andy's Scoop Show on much lately.
I have been busy. I've been watching wrestling.
Women's basketball team, they are 19-6. The Gusties defeated St. Benedict's and Carleton. They did make the playoffs. They're in the conference tournament. Tuesday they play St. Benedict. The men's hockey team, they are 6-13-4. They tied Hamlin. They're done. Did not make their playoffs. Women's hockey team, 9-12-4. They beat Hamlin and tied Hamlin. They are done.
Man, looks like women's basketball about the only thing they got going on over there at Gustavus this year. That's doing halfway decent. Or is that basketball?
Yep. Baseball and softball have not started. They start a little later at Gustavus. The men start not till the 9th of March. The women February 28th, so they'll get going this week. Golden Gophers, and hoorah, hoorah, the streak is over, Hafe. After losing to Iowa in a pretty close game, all the Gophers, who were 0-13 in the Big Ten, knock off the 6th-rated team in the country, beat Maryland for their first conference win.
I did get up to a game this year when they were playing Michigan, and they had a chance at the end there. So that's good that they finally got in that Big Ten win column there. And did you see him rush the floor there?
Yeah.
Couldn't even see the bottom of the floor anymore.
We had just won the Final Four.
Yes.
They are 7-19 for the year. They're going no place. But Rutgers comes to town Tuesday, and Rutgers has not won a game in the Big Ten.
Oh, you mean we're not in the NIT this year?
I don't think we're going to make that one. Maybe that third or fourth one that they have we can make now. You know, they added a couple more attorneys at the end.
Oh, be in the SIT. You have to sit the season out.
Yeah. Women's basketball team, 18-8. They defeated Iowa. They lost to Indiana. I don't know if they're going to make the tourney. They're 18-8. They have 3 games left. You figure if you win 20, you'll make it, but they have 3 ranked teams left on their schedule.
Man, and Bantam's been on a run, though, hasn't she?
Yeah, she can score.
She is good.
She can score, but the Gophers can't stop anyone.
No.
Ooh. Men's hockey, 16-13. They had the week off. They play Michigan in a battle for first place in the Big Ten Conference this weekend coming up. Women's hockey team, 29-3-1. They had a series against the Wisconsin Badgers this week. Wisconsin was ranked 2nd in the country, Minnesota 3rd. The Gophers sweep them.
Nice.
4-0 Friday night, 4-3 in overtime yesterday. So, great year for the women's hockey team. They have Ohio State next weekend opening up the conference playoffs. The wrestling team, 10-8. They defeated Iowa State, who's normally pretty good in wrestling, aren't they?
Well, Iowa's the big guns.
Iowa's the best, but Iowa State's usually pretty salty. Gophers 30-10 on Friday night. They will be in the Big Ten Championships in a week yet. 3-5, they start that. Baseball team off to a 2-0 start, Hafe. I heard John Anderson, they start the season with 20 away games. But they play in North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and someplace else. That's a good kind of road game.
Road Warriors.
Yep. And the softball team, 5-2. They'll be at Arizona coming up shortly. Quickly, Hafe, the Wolves.
Hey.
Yes.
In a few weeks, we'll be in the gym.
That's right. March 21.
We won't be anywhere but in the gym. Maybe we'll head to the South Gym.
Maybe
it's a little warmer in the South Gym.
Right outside.
I don't know. Well, if the weather keeps going like this, that'd be okay.
Wolves, 17-38 for the year. They lost to Memphis, lost to the Knicks. Monday they play Boston. Very inconsistent youngsters.
Yes, they are.
Up and down. Wild, 26-22-10. They hire a new coach and go up to Canada and win 3 games on the road. How about that? Today they have the big outdoor game against the Chicago Blackhawks.
It'll be a nice day. Just hate to get a little water shooting in my face with that water on the ice probably.
The Twins, I had a good talk with Gino Glenn at the basketball game Thursday. He headed out to Florida yesterday. I think first workout is scheduled for tomorrow. Optimism runs high.
Good.
According to the paper, optimism is high.
And they want Perkins back, you said.
Yep, and there was a big article in the Sunday Trib on Perkins, a 3-time All-Star who got hurt last year and didn't have the good year, and some people wished he was dead, and some people said he wasn't welcome in Minnesota. Come on, people, it's a game.
He had a tremendous first half.
Yes.
Tremendous first half, and then things fell apart in the second half, but maybe he'll get that back together.
And finally, Hafe, we should pay kudos to Blake and Eden Prairie won girls' state championships. Blake is awesome. That Bullock girl scored 10 goals in 3 state tournament games.
Wow. That's impressive.
They were good. They won 8-0 in the final. I think Eden Prairie beat Maple Grove in overtime.
Yes.
Or 1 goal.
Right at the end there last night.
So congratulations to those teams. Got anything else, Safe?
Boy, you were rambling. Oh my, I tell you what, you're going to put some ice on your jaw when this show's over.
And we kept Andy quiet. That was the real thing. You probably haven't been watching lately, but he's been chirping like a sparrow.
And his dog is so well behaved back there.
We finally straightened Hudson out, too.
Jeepers.
That'll do it for this week's show. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks to Steve, Andy, and Hudson for producing the show. Thanks to the long-lost Joel Hayford for returning. Baseball season's getting closer, so we'll see him a little bit more now.
March 21st, we'll start practice.
And thanks to you for watching. Hopefully we'll see you all next week.